So I've organized this presentation by keywords that we used in evolving the design. And you can see that we have quite a big team here, but also I want to recognize the generous assistance of the Iron Bridge Foundation. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, there we go, placemaking. Redevelopment in Hamilton, in creating major shifts in population size, industry, and development and infrastructure. The city is presented with a unique opportunity to rethink how people interact with the water and establish a world-class waterfront design. Redevelopment will introduce approximately 2,500 new residents to this area, and it is imperative that the water's edge functions as a dynamic and flexible public realm for this new community, and that neighborhoods, as well as the broader city, residents and visitors alike. Setting the stage is the urban design study, which was accepted by the city, and most importantly, provided the groundwork for urban design of this new development, including the layout of the streets, the form and size of the breakout spaces created by the footprints of the buildings relative to the streets, as well as the mixed-use character of all buildings, meaning retail presence at grade and ground level with residential units above. Most importantly, this urban design study provided guidelines to us as far as what we could provide outside the competition site as well as inside. We have respected the need for a landscape design compatible with the spill-out of the terraces at ground level in anticipation of cafes and the ever-present request by shop owners not to put trees in the way of their store signs. At the same time, we've developed a design for the Greenway, which takes our experience with the landscape needs of real districts and creates a vocabulary which transitions into the proposal for the linear promenade park that we're looking at. These are major catalysts on their own for driving people, for entertainment, restaurants, coffee shops, lifestyles of people who will live and work in this new development. And I always say we can't help ourselves, as I'm sure some of the designers here feel the same way, that we took the liberty of designing the spaces in the Greenway, so because the connections are going to be really critical at the end of the day. So the marine and industry are the references the city has asked for this space to reflect the spirit of the place, for design that provides a platform for civic engagement and a strategy that celebrates the industrial, marine, and cultural heritage of the city. Hamilton Brickworks, in fact, stood on the site, operating in Hamilton for over 125 years. As you know, it made its name building iron and steel bridges, as well as the Royal York Hotel in Toronto. Materials we have chosen are representative of this place, of the waterfront, and of this culture. Boldness we felt was key to the scale of this place, requiring a big footprint, yet a simple one. Boldness required a reference to the industry of the place, of really what made Hamilton. Then history. Threads we have woven in our proposal of this industrial history while interpreting the lush and rich shoreline of Burlington and Oakville to the west. 19th century Hamilton's pre-industrial coastline had a multiple of sheltered river inlets and Carolinian forest. History, therefore, inspired our new design and the edge to Pier 8, one defined by a sinuous civic trail that in its path creates a set of coves that are diverse, unique, and iconic in nature. Cove means sheltered bay, a special place, unique unto itself, and somewhat protected or sheltered. Culture and coves. Coves become nodes of activity and provide spaces where people can take a moment to people watch and view the activity in the harbor, linked along the northern edge by a continuous boardwalk. Coves in our design are created by the 6-meter wide trail, resulting in 3 unique coves in the form of a littoral splash pad, a themed sand beach that has a wonderful playful mound that has steam coming from it, and the cultural plaza. These new spaces become a bridge between the city and the harbor. Together, the waterfront trail and the boardwalk insert themselves into a rich hierarchy of circulation on Pier 8, in keeping with the intentions of the adopted urban design, adding to the network grid of public streets, the central spine that is now the Greenway, and the Water's Edge Promenade. The waterfront trail also becomes bridge-like in its making, creating a unified gesture across the site, punctuated by a walk over the harbor at the Sunrise Bridge, which I think Ken was talking to us about going too far out into the water. But we did it at H2O Park, and it was hard with the approvals, but the question that we got asked is, the scheme work without it? And absolutely, yes, it does. The waterfront trail also becomes bridge-like in its making, creating this unified gesture across the side, punctuated by the walk over the harbor at the Sunrise Bridge. So in keeping with the scale of the site and our intentions, the Cultural Plaza south of the bridge offers the necessary wide open space at the water's edge. Generous and varied seating reinforces the city's aspiration in naming this area the Sunrise Gathering Circle. The mound located here takes the final ritual and drama of this experience to yet another level by offering the cosmic interpretation of a lookout, a view from above and towards the beyond. The Cove on the eastern side of the promenade is where the lower terrace of the Cultural Plaza provides the open venue for themed activities as well as entertainment such as clowns and jugglers, public art, and other activities associated with civic squares, markets. The range of seating options open to the sky or shaded under grove and architectural canopies and soft or hard surfaces create the sense of a civic square. With its proximity to the Greenway, it becomes the terminus of the development's central east-west axis, with the added benefit of steps along the dock wall to allow ourselves to be truly seated at the water's edge without actually going in. The adjacent barge pool, which we have not costed, however, provides just that, the unbelievable feeling of actually sitting in water. And I would say that's the only thing that has not been costed in the plan that I'm showing. Technical issues. The new development requires city services, all the pipes and conduits below street level, to be located above the current dock elevation, meaning the new roads are as much as 3 meters above the current dock. The waterfront trail therefore becomes a link between the existing and future elevations, with both the city development and the waterfront trail sloping at a very gentle slope between east and west. Yet the slope creates a difference in elevation between the western and eastern ends of the pier of almost 3 meters. When judged against the water level, this is monumental and becomes the main challenge in this once-in-a-lifetime design exercise because of the desire to keep the experience of the shoreline close to the water. New edge. The trail therefore permits a gentle sculpting of the upper terrace of the future development on Pier 8. We have set the 3 coves at 1 meter above the existing dock elevation to keep the visitor closer to the water. One can say that the trail mediates between the higher level of the city and the lower elevation of the coves. This new sculpted edge becomes the opportunity of regenerating a native coastline, one that is contemporary as well as mimicking the beauty of the escarpment to the west, further sheltered by planters terracing up the treed city edge. The trail links all aspects of the design while providing a seamless connection across the site for active and passive recreation, a true promenade. Making Hamilton. Hamilton is more than a steel city. It is a city of beauty and of magnificent scenic sights, a city rich in history, a city of wonders. The Sunrise Bridge becomes a firm testament to the history of bridge making, offering a truly unique perspective of the harbor with views back to the pier and the city, and to the glistening water below. Visible through the steel grating, It is the kind of unique element and experience that attracts interest and becomes a destination. It generates buzz and becomes Instagrammable in today's social media environment. A composite deck system extends beyond the Sunrise Bridge to define the unifying detail of the waterfront trail. Made entirely of Corten steel plate, it is also integrated with lighting from underneath and drainage below. As such, it becomes bridge-like over its entire length, a large and resilient footprint as needed, with a timeless nod to the historical presence of the Hamilton Bridge works on the site. The trail is composed of steel grating over the central part of its length, readying the experience as one nears the Sunrise Bridge. Towards the water, we terrace the planters in transition zones of 200 millimeters or less. This en-ramp access to the lower coves is at less than 5% slope, allowing us to avoid handrails anywhere while reinforcing the experience of this vegetation by walking through it. Architecture by Stephen Teeple, who gives his regards for not being here today. The retail pavilion is the result of winding the waterfront trail together with a ramp system that links the upper and lower levels of the linear promenade park. This culminates in a rooftop terrace overlooking the harbor. With the dynamic form of the interior resulting from this intertwining motion, the pavilion is largely glazed, allowing for panoramic views to the park and harbor. A vertical screen of Corten steel blades help shade the glazing, expressing the dynamic intertwining of the trail and the ramp system together. It would also provide washrooms. In this sense, the pavilion is simply a three-dimensional extension of the core area and idea of the project, as an iconic linear trail along which one discovers unique and special moments. Through our collaboration, we also designed the canopies in the Cultural Plaza Cove, which are based on the saved trusses from the demolition. Oh, you're doing so well, Raphael. You've got the pointer everywhere, so it's good. Health, happiness, well-being, and play. The trails fulfill its role as a universal spine, linking all the civic and design elements on Pier 8. Theatrical lighting provides directional and programmable LED projectors to illuminate according to safety needs, excuse me, and setting the ambience with programming opportunities as shown in our view at dusk. The integral lighting within both the trail and the Sunrise Bridge create a dynamic and artistic feature of the design. Mounted play features adopt the conical form as a symbol of local placemaking history and industry. Yet they're dressed in a cool mist or a spiral lookout, and even as an art object itself. 4 elements in the design are meant to be play centers. The splash pad, where curtains of water play with the view of the harbor and reflection of the sky, letting children have fun but also be protected in a sheltered space with playful, oversized lounge chaises for the rest-worthy families who are with them. The theme beach with 3 play and sculptural mounds reminiscent of coal that would have that great rubberized surface on it, and we've shown it as a charcoal gray, but certainly there's flexibility for it to be others. And then the spiral lookout mound at the Cultural Plaza, which you just walk up and walk up and walk up. We did that at the Children's Garden on Center Island, and at the end there was a big pair of binoculars that all the children came up to look at everything through a different set of eyes. And the art mound and proposed barge pool in the Cove by the Cultural Plaza. The spaces are comfortable, they're attractive, they're sociable, they invite branding opportunities for Hamilton through iconic and site-specific design elements. And they're designed to be used 12 months out of the year. Sustainability. We have designed this with a green and blue infrastructure as the forefront of everything that we are doing in all our projects, but specifically in this. And we have integrated these best practices in our design to prevent water from being drained directly into the harbor. Water capture through the steel grates and the percolation of water through the generous tree and planter areas, the choice of a native palette of trees, shrubs, and ground cover and grasses, and the purification of water through that. And certainly shade. You know, it's just shade and lots of sitting as a really important way of allowing people to be comfortable. Public art. Building elements preserved during the demolition of the Hamilton Bridge works structure will be preserved in 4 places, incorporated within the new architecture of the retail pavilion or canopies in the cultural plaza, in the Sunrise Bridge, or even as sculptural elements in themselves. Public art is considered an important and powerful tool in telling the history of the site and the community of stories, and as a medium of communicating environmental sustainability community features, we have selected these opportunities. A program ticker tape display at the Sunrise Bridge carrying memorable quotes to function as an art piece. For example, by Toni Morrison, "All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was." A sculptural fence around the pumping station. Standalone sculptures at the plaza above the splash pad and beach. The art mound in the cultural plaza Cove, as well as a venue for temporary art installations that can invite a varied and continuous schedule of pieces. This could be at par with popular destinations such as the Matisse Garden, which we participated in, or winter warming huts, which the Pack House did in Winnipeg, and they said they've gotten more publicity from those than anything else. There's just so many examples, but we really didn't want to take the liberty of not having discussions because there's such a strong art presence here of how that would actually become, whether they would be single pieces or whether there would be a process. The greatness about the process is it keeps bringing people back to look at it and celebration, and you have a very strong art community, and I think that would be really quite wonderful to respond back to it. Civic engagement. The large and flexible open spaces will promote civic engagement, offering visitors and residents the theater of large crowds on the water and on land, while the design also offers the opportunities to these densities to transition to the more sheltered coves and relish the experience of being near the water. In addition to providing this glorious setting for life's events and daily rituals, the city will have the capacity to program a lot. There can be cultural performances in the coves. There could be swimming on the barge at the Cultural Plaza Cove. There could be unique maritime and water-based events such as tall shrimps or the recent Big Duck or the boat shows and so on. At HTO Park, which we were the designers of on Lake Ontario, that was implemented in 2007, a pyramid of really cool festivals and art installations have taken place there through the city. And during the wintertime. Last year, they had a barge with a tennis court on it that was docked along the promenade as a promotional event for the Rogers Tennis Cup, which we thought was like we were at first, but then it was like great. Ties to the Royal Botanical Gardens, which is really important. We just finished the rock garden there. And even the prospect of one's own forest island out in the Hamilton Harbor. In our design statement, we showed a tugboat pulling a forest in a barge. As such, then, this illustrates the metaphor whereby one site can represent another, even if it does not resemble it. In our case, we propose to transform the edge of Pier 8 into a hybrid Carolinian coastline. So the next steps. The linear promenade park therefore invites its description as a nexus of spaces linked by the waterfront trail. Through its connecting ramps to the cove, it plays on the analogy with a river as a connector of communities, thereby reclaiming the shoreline to one of its essential human functions. We are confident at having met the challenge to create a safe, resilient, and successful space that becomes a demonstration and a beloved park within Hamilton's open space network. This is not a cookie-cutter solution, nor a beach strip and walkway, but rather a proposal that carefully and thoughtfully weaves a narrative with threads of history through the design. It is a space that celebrates Hamilton and sets the stage for Hamilton's next chapter. Thank you very much. Yeah, Raphael. This is my Raphael who worked on this project.
Oh, is that Linda
I
and then
couldn't
Eric?
get anybody else from the office, but he's the important one.
Janet, I have a question regarding your cantilevered lookout. Is that what
Yes.
you call it? Your cantilevered lookout. You had indicated if there were challenges with having that built, that your design could succeed without it. So how would you just chop it off, or
No.
what would you do?
I mean, I don't want to give it away so quickly, but we did get a list of 4 questions. Maybe people, other got 2 or 3. Ours were 4, and one of the questions was there flexibility to move it? I mean, we know it's hard. We've done it before, but we really believe that the scheme works if it has to be moved back. We wouldn't just cut it off. I think we'd have to relook at all the lines and trails and start all over again in terms of where it hits and where it goes out, although we're really happy at that location. But because of the grades, we'd have to revisit the whole thing. But we believe that there's incredible drama to be on top of the water, but if we can't be on top of the water, just having the height and looking at everything at a different eye level is incredibly successful.
Thank you.
Promising.
Certainly elevating the walkway certainly creates some vistas and some opportunities, but just a question as to, I don't know what the space is between the walkway and what the base is or the grade level would be, and what's happening in that space, that particular space underneath those walkways. And I know that it's changing because obviously they're ramping up and they're ramping down, but how are you treating those particular spaces? So that's just my question.
Okay, so I'll start. I just want to make it clear that the boardwalk is slow and walkable, and we look at this as walkable but also a little bit faster. The idea was that it goes through planting areas that hide the underside, and so that they actually look like they're floating on top of the plant material, but that they're not really raised. You know they're raised because of the grade of going up and down on them. But the reason for those planter boxes is not that we want them. It's actually to fudge the fact that the ground isn't going up and down with them, that the planter boxes are high enough to hide the underside and that they're cascading down without seeing any of the walls. The plant material will just flow through them. And they'll be planted that way. You know, they'll all be in the same planter box and weed in and out. Anything else, Raphael? Or?
No, but the other reason is that because of the grade change, we're taking advantage of the 600
Raphael,
points.
can you speak in the microphone?
Right here.
Thanks.
We took advantage of the code that allows for not having handrails if your grade change is less than 600 millimeters. And so by having these steps that we then have vegetation that acts as that transition, and then by inserting the ramps within those, cutting through them, then the experience is you're actually walking through the vegetation, and you don't need a handrail because it's like walking on a less than 5%.
Yeah, I understand the concept and having that height, and it's just that underneath them, and I don't know the detail of how you've treated those. For lack of a better word, is dead space, or like I mean I don't want to have the feeling of sort of the Toronto what's that elevated highway? I don't even want to call the name
Gardner.
of it, but yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be like a retaining wall that you never see that builds up that material.
Oh.
Sorry? Oh, sorry. What you'll have is you'll have a retaining wall that holds back the soil so that it will reach that level that you won't be able to get underneath it, and then it will tear us down with the plant material. So you won't be able to see underneath, you won't be able to crawl, animals will not be able to get there. The whole idea is to build an artificial wall so it looks like it's really at that grade, with the plant material cascading around it and feeling like it's on grade.
You mentioned the bridge structure. I just want to ask, is that accounted for in your budget, the way it in its current form? Or?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. There's 3 different materials. One is the wood deck. The other is plain corten steel, and one is one that has grates to it as well, so that we can light it from underneath. So it will be very, very magical. And we also look at it as a sustainability, that the snow will go through it and the rain will go through it, and that there'll be a wonderful sense of magic.
One last question. Sorry.
I just add one more point, that we actually worked with Iron Bridge Fabrication, a company in around Hamilton, and we structured the bridge so that actually a good part of the structure is actually over the dock, which allowed for a cantilever of this size. And again, we were able to meet the budget by including it.
You mentioned a number of art installation components. I just wanted to know, is there an allowance in the budget for those to occur, or are those future?
Well, we developed the canopies here with the understanding that we could use some of those elements. Within the pavilion, the understanding is that we could do the integration within the costs that we've provided. We provided the base channel around here, but that part of the public art would actually have to be outside of the budget. And then the standalone sculptures, that again is also something that we didn't factor in, but the location is there and the elements would be there. At the same time, some of the door elements that you saw from the demolition could be definitely incorporated within the, let's say, the build-out inside of the pavilion.
Thank you for your presentation. Your answer to the last question actually generated another question from me, and that is the Sunrise Bridge, as I understand, Lookout, has a perforated metal deck. But as it goes further along, are you saying that there are different treatments that make up that color?
Yeah, so the way we worked with the grading, which could be depending on the loading that would be expected, but we included the grading because it would allow for a small pickup truck. The grading, as we have it, let's say in the budget, is between the pavilion and these canopies. The areas beyond that in the waterfront trail is a steel plate.
Okay, any other questions, guys? No? Okay, anybody from the audience have any questions about this project? Very good. Thank you very much. You guys, thank you.